All right, great. So over the next hour, we will be connecting with 3 of our candidates. For this morning's session, we do have 3 moderators as well. So at this point in time, I do want to tell you thank you for joining us. And I do hope that this coffee hour will be a very interesting one, and it gets us really prepped and energized for our upcoming conference. I will hand you over to Miriam Josu, and she is a past committee member, and she's currently a member of the nominating committee, and she will be giving you some updates and some relevant information. Over to you, Miriam.
Gracias, muchísimas gracias. Buenos días con todas, buenas tardes. Sé que algunas se conectan de diferentes usos horarios. Muchas gracias por conectarse con nosotros para esta hora café. Les saluda Miriam Justo, soy miembro del Comité de Nominaciones desde el mes de noviembre y en esta ocasión estamos aquí reunidas para que las organizaciones miembro tengan una oportunidad de conocerse, las delegadas, las observadoras, y poder conversar en preparación a la conferencia regional. Además, vamos a poder conocer a las candidatas al próximo comité regional y el día de hoy estamos dándole el foco a 3 de ellas. Sin embargo, varias de nuestras candidatas están aquí. Como ustedes han podido ver en el libro de nominaciones, tenemos 7 candidatas. El día de hoy vamos a conocer un poquito más a 3 de ellas y el día 8 de mayo conoceremos a las 4 siguientes. Mi participación aquí es básicamente para brindarles a ellas el soporte. Las facilitadoras de este evento son Gabriela y son Chantal. Este no es un evento para hacer campaña, es como dije, más bien un evento para conocernos entre delegadas para la conferencia, hacer preguntas. Entonces no vamos a compartir información personal de las candidatas para respetar su privacidad y por seguridad. Sin embargo, si ustedes tienen preguntas y tal, las pueden escribir en el chat y nosotras haremos llegar sus preguntas a ellas para que las respondan y luego puedan responder. Muchísimas gracias y ahora les dejo el micro a Gabriela y a Chantal para empezar. Muchísimas gracias.
Muchas gracias, qué emoción estar por acá. Buenos días a todas. Salud, yo con una tacita de té. Chantal, ¿estás tomando algo?
No, I'm not currently drinking anything yet. Not yet.
Bueno, salud a todas aquellas que tengan por ahí un cafecito o alguna bebida caliente o fría. Y buen provecho a quienes están desayunando. Qué lindo podernos encontrar, podernos reunir otra vez celebrando los logros de nuestra región. Y bueno, muy emocionadas porque vamos a tener la celebración de esta gran conferencia regional. Queremos agradecerle a las 7 candidatas, de verdad que se lucieron con el panel que tenemos. Tenemos 7 candidatas, vamos a ver la foto, lo voy a pedir a Jime que nos haga el favor de enseñarnos. Vean qué calidad de guías que tenemos. Estas son nuestras 7 candidatas y hoy vamos a conocer a 3 de ellas y en la próxima hora del café, que va a ser el 8 de mayo, vamos a conocer a las otras 4. Así que ojalá puedan estar toda esta hora bien atentas, tomando nota para conocer a sus hermanas guías. Queremos darle las gracias a las 3 que vamos a conocer hoy, que vamos a ver también su foto por aparte, a Stephanie, Abigail y Susan. Queremos agradecerles a ellas especialmente por este tiempo que se han tomado de la mañana de hoy para acompañarnos, para compartirnos más sobre sus experiencias, y a las 7 ustedes agradecerles por haber dado ese paso adelante y por querer dar esa milla extra, ¿verdad? Por la región. Entonces, muchísimas gracias por todo lo que construyen en conjunto y estamos ansiosas por empezar.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning again. Thanks, Gabby, for those fabulous words. Good morning, good to see everyone smiling. Very happy to meet you all. So this morning gives us a great pleasure to introduce the candidates for the Western Hemisphere Regional Committee. So we have Abigail Christmas from Dominica. We have Susan Burney from Canada and Stephanie Argus from the USA. So these are 3 candidates that will be focusing on this morning. We're so happy to have them. So we're going to invite to the candidates at this time to introduce themselves. We'll begin with Stephanie, then Abigail, then Suzanne. So Stephanie, and also whilst we invite Stephanie to speak first, we're going to ask member organizations, if you have any questions, just please pose it in the chat so we could ask the candidates following the questions that we'll pose. All right, thank you. And here's my cup, Gabby, I have my cup. So go ahead. Awesome. So go ahead, Stephanie. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thanks so much, Chantal. Good morning, everyone. My name is Stephanie Argus, and I just want to pause and say, Roseanne, I think I can still hear you on the English channel. Thanks, everyone. Just wanted to give our interpreters the time to switch. Hi, everyone. I'm Stephanie Argus, and I am so pleased to be with you here today. I am a lifetime member of Girl Scouts of the USA, and I am also a current member of the 2019 to 2022 Regional Committee. And it has been such an honor to have served in this role for the last triennium. I have been part of many different teams with Girl Guiding and Girl Scouting, but I think that this has been the most impactful experience of my lifetime in the movement. I joined Girl Scouting at age 5, and I have had the opportunity to have a number of different roles with the organization, including serving as a volunteer on the local and national levels, in addition to also serving as a staff member, a full-time Girl Scout Council staff member with several different offices across the United States. And I think that blend of experience, both the professional and the voluntary backgrounds, really gives me a strong grounding to connect with all stakeholders across our region to really understand the needs of both volunteers and to also work effectively with staff and other external partners. I currently live in the smallest state in the US, in Rhode Island. I've been here for about 6 years and I like it very much. And I think that a common thread throughout my background has been a commitment to feminist leadership and to gender equity for girls and young women. My background is in education. I hold a master's in education. I'm currently pursuing my PhD in education, and I absolutely look forward to continuing to engage with essential questions about diversity, equity, inclusion, and the representation of marginalized groups within our region. That's something that is of top priority to me. Thank you so much for being with us, and looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you, Stephanie. And let's now hear from Abigail. Abigail, can you hear us? Abigail, you're muted. Go ahead and unmute, please.
Good morning, everyone, and happy Saturday to everyone. My name is Abigail Christmas. I am representing the Girl Guides Association of Dominica. I have had the dream of being a member of their Western Hemisphere Committee ever since I witnessed how passionate the members were at the last Western Hemisphere Conference. I was relatively new at the time, and the zeal I saw the members and the presenters, the committee members had, it just made me think that I would want to be that type of person, so passionate about guiding and making a difference to the young ladies in the region. I have always been an advocate for girls and young women. And right now, as a member of the guiding movement, I take it even more seriously, and I strive to, in everything I do, make it be for the betterment and involvement of girls. I'm really about girl-led activities and girl-led advocacy, because I feel that if we as women don't uplift girls, who will give them the strength to know that they can do anything they set their minds to. I am currently a student, undergraduate student, pursuing a degree in political science and law. I am from Dominica, but right now I am living in Barbados for school. Um, One thing I think I would contribute, well, it's not one thing, but a combination of things I think I would contribute to the region for our girls is basically I think we should focus on integration. I mean, this is basically motivated by the fact that throughout the pandemic, the current committee sought to have different trainings online, and we really use technology to our benefit. I think that can be used to let the guides themselves be integrated more and have more joint activities. Thank you, everyone, and I look forward to having a great session with you all today.
Thank you, Abigail. And let's now hear from Suzanne. Over to you, Suzanne. You are muted, Suzanne. Please unmute.
Sorry, I did, but it didn't take. So
Awesome.
Unmuted now.
Awesome. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Susan Burney. I'm a member of Girl Guides of Canada. In Canada, because of the number of members that we have, we're fairly complex, divided into many levels. And I've held senior leadership portfolios at most of those levels. So my experience is local, national, provincial, all different areas. I've been a part of significant disruptive, I would say, but positive change at the provincial and national levels. Presently, I hold a national level position. The title is the Director of Provincial Operations, which of course means nothing to anyone but myself. But it means that I mentor and work with 9 provincial commissioners, and I co-chair a joint staff volunteer committee that oversees the operational aspects of enacting our strategic plan. Say internationally with WAGs, I started out with the capacity building finance team, which has 6 members from different countries. I'm the only person from North America. It's fascinating to work with. We produced resource booklets as tools for MOs, and we work, about a year ago, we started working with the capacity building fundraising team to see how we could assist Western Hemisphere MOs that need help in finance and fundraising. We organized a series of workshops and presented those. We actually ended up presenting them to Western Hemisphere and Asia Pacific in the fall of 2021 because Asia Pacific wanted them. So on those workshops, I did some administration, I did content creation, and I did presenting. Well, I was preparing for the workshops. I went through CAT responses from countries, and I actually became quite fascinated with it. It sounds strange, but I was really interested in how issues are interconnected within those responses. And rarely was one thing an issue, often many things were an issue together, stemming, I think, from not having a vibrant membership. So my motivation, I understand how fortunate I am in my relatively resource-rich MO. So my motivation is to use my experience and expertise to help us move towards lifting all of our MOs. We can work together, I think, by connecting MOs with like issues and making available the best resources to assist them. This aligns with the plan to offer webinars through the next triennium and focusing on recruitment and retention and fundraising and building partnerships. I think we can share best practices, our successes, and our obstacles to benefit from each other's knowledge and experience. I said I've enjoyed exploring the CAT responses and would love to continue with capacity building development. I began in the area of finance and grant management, but I've also had experience in bringing leaders together to make connections that enable the sharing of successes and challenges. That's me in a nutshell.
Thank you, Suzanne. We're going to now go into some direct questions to the candidates, but I'm going to turn over to my co-moderator, Gabrielle, to start with the first question. I'm also going to invite MOs to place your questions in the chat that you'd like to direct to the participants, to the candidates. Go ahead, Gabrielle.
Muchas gracias. Qué gusto conocerlos a las tres. De verdad no me equivocaba, ya había leído un poquito de cada una. Recuerden que tenemos el libro de nominaciones donde ustedes también pueden conocer más, ampliar sobre la experiencia que tiene cada una de ellas y acercarse y conversar con ellas. Recordemos que somos hermanas. Qué alegría conocerlas. Queremos conocer un poco más sobre su punto de vista, de cómo visualizan la participación efectiva de las jóvenes dentro de los procesos que tenemos en la región. Y para eso vamos a invitar nuevamente con 3 minutos a cada una de nuestras candidatas que tenemos hoy. Vamos a empezar por Abigail, luego de ella nos va a contar Susan sus visualizaciones y luego Stephanie. Si estás lista, Abigail, te invito a que tomes el control. El micrófono es todo tuyo.
Ready, Gabby, thank you. Okay. So should I just go ahead and answer the questions?
Claro. ¿Cómo visualizas la participación efectiva de las jóvenes dentro de los procesos regionales?
Can you just repeat that? The translations were kind of fuzzy for me.
¿Cómo visualizas la participación efectiva de las jóvenes dentro de los procesos regionales?
Thank you for that. I am always excited to see participation of young people, especially young women. As I mentioned earlier, I am really an enthusiast and advocate for bill-led activities and participation of young women. So I must say it is very encouraging to see how the Western Hemisphere values the inputs of young women and young girls. It always excites me when I see activities posted on the social media of the Western Hemisphere, and you see that majority of the participants are young women, young girls. It's really exciting. And one of the things from the Western Hemisphere Conference in 2019 that really got me excited, as I mentioned, it was fascinating for me to be there the last time to see how the participants engaged. The motion 32, how it was such of a focus for the participants. It really encouraged me because motion 32 was basically about encouraging girls and young women to have decision-making roles. And this is one thing that stuck me.
We cannot hear well, so maybe you can speak slowly. Maybe it's connection, or try to have a better audio.
You can't hear me clearly? Can you hear me
because
better
it
now?
isn't clear, so we cannot have the full message from you.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes, I'm hearing you clearly. I'm hearing you clearly. You can proceed.
Okay. So I will just try to answer the question again. As I was saying earlier, I love to see when the Western Hemisphere values the input of young women and young girls. WAGs on a whole, all their activities, you see that the participation of young women is very encouraging because there are always so many young women participating in these activities. and it shows that the values of Motion 32 is being fulfilled. At the last Western Hemisphere conference, I was really fascinated by how everyone was so enthusiastic about young women being engaged in decision-making roles with Motion 32. So right now, I am happy and excited when I see that young women are always fulfilling roles in the region. And it is something that I appreciate deeply, because what it says is that we value young women, and we are essentially making their dreams come true by making them believe in themselves more, so that they could achieve whatever they think might be impossible.
Muchas gracias, Abigail. Disculpas, pero no lográbamos hacer la traducción a español, y el interés es que todas podamos conocerte mejor. Entonces, muchas gracias. Gracias también por la disponibilidad de poder repetir tu mensaje. Queremos compartirles también a todas nuestras hermanas guías que están hoy tomando cafecito, tecito o su bebida por ahí, que Abigail es una de las 2 candidatas jóvenes de las 7 candidatas que tenemos, y que es un gusto conocerla también. De la misma manera que Abigail nos estaba compartiendo, vamos a escuchar cómo Susan y Stephanie visualizan la participación efectiva de las jóvenes dentro de los procesos regionales. Adelante, Susan. Todavía no logro escucharte, Susan.
Thank you. I'm starting now. Sorry. So I consider important qualities for contribution are things like ability, expertise, communication skills, adaptability, energy, and willingness. Anyone of any age can have those qualities. I've seen teams work very well, at best, I think, with a mixture of experience levels. My CB finance team has a young woman as the lead, and the participants are a mixture of ages and experiences. We respect and value each other's inputs, and we allow the person with the most expertise in any one area to take the lead. No one knows everything about everything, and everyone knows something about something. So we work that way. Generally, I see that younger adults have an advantage of new ideas, not being bogged down in tradition, and of being more in touch with our youth members. So I hope that young women will take on a fundamental role in our regional processes. Many young women have professional expertise in areas where we need to concentrate, such as recruitment or finance. They can be major contributors as authors and resources and tools, and also as creators and presenters of webinars that we plan to do. It would be beneficial if young women were also the participants in many of these webinars, so that the knowledge they gain can be used and enhanced in the future. We need to push for succession planning to include younger women, so that we have knowledgeable, vibrant leadership in our MOs in the future. And if connections are made between MOs and those include young women, then those connections will only grow over time. So I think as an organization, we can only win by including young women in everything that we do.
Muchas gracias, Susan. Qué inspirador. Vamos a escuchar también a Stephanie. Si estás lista y nos puedes compartir, puedes abrir el micrófono.
Thanks so much, Gabby. I visualize 2 particular ways that the Western Hemisphere region can really formalize and strengthen processes that involve young women, which really is an imperative, as we know from our global movement. It's a key focus. I think that one particular approach is to start by recruiting more young women ages 18 to 30 to join our global volunteer resource pool to participate in Mobilize, and to take on specific volunteer projects or assignments in teams that will allow them to start getting some experience with different skill sets and also make some connections throughout the region. I think that is a very clear way to start really integrating young women purposefully with meaningful roles. And I think that we currently have about 200 Western Hemisphere volunteers registered on the Mobilize platform, but I'd love to see at least 50% of those registered volunteers be young women ages 18 to 30. Another way that I envision young women having an opportunity to really step into authentic leadership positions is through a formal shadowing program in which they might be matched with a current regional committee member, perhaps a member of one of the other regional teams, and have a chance to listen in, ask questions, be part of calls that are held between a consultant and a member organization, because sometimes just being at the table isn't all that's necessary. Sometimes you also need a bit of an on-ramp to start to access the conversation. And that's important to me, giving people the tools and resources, not just making space, but allowing them to flourish and succeed. And something that I also envision as a pipeline related topic is I'd love to create a regional girl advisory board. This is something that I created with Girl Scouts of Southeastern New England as a staff member when I served as senior director of program. We selected 12 young women to advise the organization across multiple content areas for a period of 1 year. And all young women were actually under age 18. We talk often about young women ages 18 to 30, but also making space for an even younger generation to see themselves as key decision makers, as people who have influence, and as people whose voices will be amplified. I think will be another really strong tactic to encourage future generations of young women to be involved with governance. And then I guess maybe my last comment is that I've been in some conversations recently where people have very honestly asked, what is governance? And I think we really need to clarify this nebulous topic, because it's a barrier for people to get involved if they don't quite understand the structure and what the term even means. So I'm hoping through providing more tools and more resources that we will be able to authentically incorporate not just young women ages 18 to 30, but also younger folks ages 12 to 18 in girl-led decision-making.
Muchas gracias, Stephanie. Justo ahorita que estás hablando sobre la participación de las mujeres jóvenes en los diferentes niveles, y así como recordaban también Susan y Abigail de la importancia de que participen en los procesos, queremos recordarles que las inscripciones siguen abiertas y que es importante que nuestras delegaciones tengan también la participación de mujeres jóvenes, así que invitarles a que motiven en sus organizaciones miembros, y aparte que recuerden la fecha de cierre. Vamos a ver si Chantal está por ahí. A ver, Chantal, si te encuentro.
Yes.
Sí.
Still here.
Excelente.
So, right.
Les cuento que yo a Chantal la conocí. ¿A dónde nos conocimos? Al otro lado del mundo. Nos conocimos en Australia.
We met in Australia.
Sí. Imagínense. Sí, nos conocimos en Australia, en el GLS, también, ¿verdad? Pensando ideas para que nuestra región se fortalezca. Así que es un gusto siempre encontrarnos con todas nuestras hermanas guías, indistinto de si es con un cafecito o en medio de aquel frío tremendo, si es en el calorcito de nuestra casa o al otro lado del mundo. Qué gusto, Chantal. Creo que tienes otra pregunta, ¿verdad? Bajo la manga.
Thanks, Gabriel. Certainly I do. And it was excellent hearing from the candidates with the first question. I was really impressed. So let's go to the second question. So what is your greatest virtue that you will put at the service of the committee in the next triennium? And I would like to start with Suzanne, then Stephanie, then Abigail. So I'll repeat the question and then I'm going to invite Suzanne to take the microphone. What is your greatest virtue that you will put at the service of the committee in the next triennium? Over to you, Suzanne.
Thank you very much. This is actually the hardest question, in my opinion. I have a significant amount of experience, both in guiding and in my professional life. in change management. So I think I can bring that to the table to help in the regional committee. I always take a collaborative approach, but I've managed change with individuals who have a broad range of knowledge and expertise in that topic. And so worked with many different levels of people. I worked with my provincial council who knew they had to make a change, but were afraid of the negative feedback and what reaction people would have to that. And we had to work through that with them and give them lots of time to understand what their role was and how they needed to enact the change. I worked with a province full of guiders who we pretty much knew were going to be angry at decisions that we made. And I needed to turn their thinking into a positive direction by envisioning the possibilities rather than to think about what they were losing or what they were giving up. And I've worked with staff who knew that a change was inevitable, but were uncertain about how it would affect them. So I think I've looked at change in many different ways and from many different angles. And I could bring that experience and knowledge and some theoretical, some practical knowledge of change management to the regional committee.
Thank you, Suzanne. Let's now hear from Stephanie.
Thanks so much, Chantal. I had the opportunity within the last few years to complete a strengths finder called the Clifton Strengths Finder, which identifies key themes and skill sets. And according to my personal inventory, some of my top skills are that I'm a developer of people, I am an achiever, very motivated to reach a goal, and that I am strategic. And I'll focus on that last particular theme, strategic thinking. I think that I am adept with seeing big picture, the landscape, and also sorting a lot of information and organizing processes to streamline efforts. I am someone who is excited by innovation to improve strategy. And I've had an opportunity with Girl Scouts of the United States of America to work as a strategic planning coach to Girl Scout Council executives or executive directors across the country. In that work, I have maintained a portfolio of 12 CEOs that I served as a contact point or liaison for and provided coaching on aligning national strategy with council local strategy. So I would be really excited to continue that work regionally by supporting our member organizations to really align with our global strategic priorities and to think of ways that they are already doing this great work and to continue to magnify and really grow strategy. I think that it's important to me that Girl Guiding and Girl Scouting is seen as a strategic organization. And I think that I am positioned to help us continue to do that work.
Thank you, Stephanie. And just to repeat the question, what is your greatest strength that you'd put at the service of the committee in the next triennium? Let's hear from Abigail.
Thank you, Chantal. When I was at the interview with the nominations committee, this question or a similar question was posed to me, and I will give the same answer today. I feel that my ability to adjust in various situations, it's a strength. And in Girl Guiding, I think that my love for advocating for young people and volunteerism, it's virtues that even take me further and allow me to do more. I feel like you should have passion, especially when you're doing something. You should not do something you don't love. And in various situations, I am able to adjust just for the love of whatever it is that I am doing. And it just happened as I was relatively new to Girl Guiding, and I have had the ability in various capacities to adjust to the situation, rise to the occasion, and no one would be able to tell that I was new just because I was able to adjust, do some research, come with the facts, and know how to approach various situations regardless of what my experience was at the time.
Thank you, Abigail. Thank you, Abigail, Suzanne, Stephanie. Thank you for sharing. I'm seeing 2 questions in the chat. So Gabriella, I'm gonna go ahead with the first question and then you can take the second one. So the first question I'm seeing in the chat, many people see Girl Guiding as an organization for young girls. And so we lose many volunteers and members at the age of 18. How do you see us encouraging or reviving interest in the movement post age 18? So I'm gonna ask, let's start with Suzanne.
Sure.
Then we'll go to Abigail, then Stephanie. Go ahead, Suzanne.
Great, thank you very much. This is an interesting question because this was my situation, actually. I was a girl member and then I left the organization. I actually moved and I lost touch and it didn't come back until my daughter was born, actually. And the year she was born, I rejoined as a leader. I realized that was something that I wanted to do. It was important to me. So it is a bit of a conundrum. So in Canada, our highest retention rate is within girls who are 14 plus, really at our 2 highest age groups, Pathfinders and Rangers. And then we lose them. Their lives change, right? They move, they go away to university, perhaps they get jobs, connections in new places become more difficult. And at the same time, the usual way that we work with girls is not, they're not ready for regular meetings either, as a quote unquote girl, which they're not really anymore, or as leaders. So they don't fall into our sort of usual pattern of how we expect, I guess, our people to behave, our members to behave in terms of being their availability. So a couple of things I think we need to be able to find a way to let them make those connections much more easily, either to keep in touch when they move and try and connect them up with their new community. We have an 18 to 30 group we call Link in Canada, which allows people of that age group to stay connected. And it is a lot of times it is university students who've moved to new communities and they stay connected through their Link group, and they meet irregularly. It's up to them, how often they meet, what they do, social things, help out with, obviously we encourage them to help out with units. Many do in their new communities. And I think it's keeping in touch. It's keeping in touch all the time, allowing the connections, making it easy for them to belong, and also encouraging, I think, encouraging re-entry, I'm going to call it. So if people do lose touch, we need to encourage re-entry as easily as possible and welcome people back.
Thanks, Suzanne. Thanks for that response. Let's hear from Abigail.
I think that life happens and sometimes some people get carried away with life, and that's what leads to the lack of continuation. However, I feel that with technology and great succession planning from as young as guides, you just encourage them to continue the movement. From guides, you encourage them that they should move on to rangers, to young leaders. And I think that the process on a whole should be an exciting one where the young ladies themselves will feel that even if I'm 18 and I am no longer and I am an adult and I no longer need to be involved with the guiding movement, I want to be involved because it is an exciting thing and it has created opportunities for me. And I feel that I would be valuable and it would in turn would be valuable to me if I continue in the movement. So I feel that it's about encouragement, proper communication, and also collaborations, because you see a lot of the times when students, as Susan mentioned, when students move to university or colleges, they tend to fall short, fall behind. But if we have proper communication and we use technology to our benefit, if, for instance, that person moves to another area in the region, they could connect with the guiding movement in that region and put their skills with at that time if they're not in their country. And they could still use technology to be connected with their country. So I will use my situation, for example. Right now, I'm no longer in my country, but because of technological advancements, I'm able to have meetings with my girl guides every week. And it is not a hindrance. So I feel that we need to speak to the young ladies about ways of continuation and let them know that things that they might think are hurdles in the way or hindrances could actually be used to their benefit if they find alternative means of continuing.
Thank you, Abigail. And just to repeat for everyone, so we know what we're answering, many people see Girl Guiding as an organization for young girls. And so we lose many volunteers and members at the age of 18. How do you see us encouraging or reviving interest in the movement post the age 18? I'm now going to invite Stephanie to give her view on this question.
Thank you. It's absolutely a very relevant question for so many of our member organizations. In Girl Scouts USA, we see two key membership age drops around ages 9 to 10, and then a second at ages 13 to 14. So we're seeing that decline in membership nationally prior to age 18, exactly this situation. And I think that I have a few general comments about ways that we can continue to really authentically involve young women, girls and young women, through especially their high school years until they become young adults. I think that the first large-scale issue I see is that oftentimes there are not unique opportunities that are created for Girl Guides and Girl Scouts ages 14 to 18. Oftentimes those folks are fabulous leaders and they are asked to often lead activities for younger girls, or they stay in a multi-age range troop or unit or group. And that is a really fabulous and nurturing experience in many ways, but also does not necessarily provide opportunities that are just for that age level. And I think that the more we can continue to encourage our member organizations to create unique opportunities that cater to this age level, the more relevant their experiences will be, the more exciting their experiences will be, and they'll see reason to continue to participate in the organization. I think that another specific way that we can really make space for our girls to become young alums and young adults in the movement is to really showcase young women taking the lead with advocacy, making sure that those efforts are supremely visible. We have some amazing advocacy champions that advocate at events such as the Commission on the Status of Women, and all of those folks are ages 18 to 30, and allowing our younger members, ages 14 to 18, and even younger than that, see that there are ways to continue to impact local decision makers, national level decision makers is going to be really important. And lastly, an initiative that Girl Scouts USA has recently been focusing on that I would love to encourage member organizations throughout the region to entertain is the idea of campus Girl Scouts. This is the establishment of groups, troops, or units at college campuses, college universities that provide an ongoing space for young women to continue to be involved in Girl Scouting and to have those peer relationships with others who are 18 through 22. And I think that formalizing those opportunities and creating more spaces will really allow folks to want to stay involved in the organization. And I think also really evaluating our volunteer opportunities. Many times young people don't have the time available to commit to being a troop or group leader for a year-long period, but they might be very excited to volunteer at an event or to have episodic volunteerism. So I think continuing to diversify our volunteer opportunities is also important.
We are on time now.
Thank you so much. Excellent responses. Would you agree, Gabriel?
Muchas gracias, nos encantaría poder tener largas pláticas y estoy segura que vamos a encontrar los espacios para ellos y muchas gracias por tan interesantes propuestas. Hay una pregunta más que les voy a dejar en el chat, se las estoy enviando ahorita y le vamos a pedir a Susan, Abigail y a Stephanie que por favor nos ayuden respondiéndola en el chat para que todas las participantes puedan leerlo. Vamos a escuchar a las organizaciones miembros, ¿qué te parece, Chantal? Pues mientras Susan, Stephanie, Abigail nos comparten su respuesta en el chat, vamos a escuchar un poco la experiencia que están viviendo las organizaciones miembros, porque queremos saber cómo se están preparando, cómo están viviendo todo ese proceso previo a la conferencia y con la particularidad de que este año es una conferencia en línea. ¿Qué tipo de consejos nos pueden brindar, en especial para aquellas voluntarias que por primera vez están participando en una conferencia regional y cómo lo están viviendo cómo están viviendo el proceso sus organizaciones miembros en particular? Entonces vamos a invitarle a quien guste a abrir el micrófono, que nos cuente de su experiencia. Vamos a tomar unos 10 minutitos, entonces vamos a intentar de ser puntuales, ¿verdad? Así muy específicas y sintetizar, que nos cuenten cómo están viviendo la experiencia para intentar de escuchar diversas organizaciones miembros. Pueden levantar su mano para darles la palabra. María José, adelante. Y nos cuentas de dónde eres, ¿verdad? Para que las demás podamos saber hasta dónde estamos viajando.
Buenos días a todas. Yo soy de Chile. Estamos junto a la región organizando esta conferencia, así que les damos la bienvenida a todas. Esperamos que sea una grandiosa experiencia y creo que como tips para la preparación es que conozcan a las candidatas, lean el documento y busquen a aquellas mujeres que mejor nos van a representar y que mejor van a llevar las ideas para el próximo trienio, ¿cierto? Para trabajar por nuestras niñas y jóvenes. Les doy la bienvenida, participen de todas las actividades que vamos a hacer, incluso aquellas que son extra, porque vamos a aprender y compartir mucho. Ese es mi saludo, Gabriela, gracias por la oportunidad y mucho éxito a todas, en especial a las candidatas.
Muchas gracias, qué emoción, no se emocionan ustedes, yo solo con escuchar el acento y dije, me siento allá, ya estamos en la conferencia, yo me siento allá. Muchas gracias Chile por ser nuestros grandes anfitriones y muchas gracias por toda la preparación que en conjunto con los diferentes comités han llevado a cabo. Definitivamente un gran consejo. Ahora vamos a movernos hacia Perú. Vamos a ver qué nos puede contar Claudia, que además toda una guía experimentada. Gusto escucharte.
Hola Gaby, muchas gracias. Buenos días con todas. De verdad, súper contenta de poder estar en este espacio. Gracias a la región por pensar siempre la forma de estar conectadas. Y definitivamente, bueno, estamos haciendo grandes esfuerzos porque todavía estamos de una manera virtual, pero en Perú eso nos permite también de poder llegar a más ciudades, a que hayan chicas de otras ciudades que no sean solamente de la capital que participen. Ya tenemos a la delegación completa, somos las 7, ya la delegada, que en este caso, bueno, me toca ser a mí como presidenta nacional, y nuestra comisionada internacional, que es una mujer joven también, así que estamos súper contentas porque tratamos de priorizar que haya mujeres jóvenes menores de 30 años, así que en la delegación son 4 mujeres jóvenes, 3 somos ya pasados los 30, pero estamos muy contentas porque ellas queremos que tengan más experiencia, ¿no? Son chicas que están involucradas en el guidismo, pero queremos que conozcan más de cerca también cómo funcionamos, entender las estructuras. Stephanie hablaba algo muy importante que era el tema de la gobernanza, y es verdad, a veces las chicas jóvenes no entienden también cuál es la estructura que tenemos en las asociaciones, en las organizaciones miembros y más, ¿no? Entonces, esto nos permite también actualizarlas y involucrarlas en este tema. Nosotras hemos tenido ya una primera reunión, tenemos que ajustarnos mucho con los tiempos, porque efectivamente las más jóvenes, algunas ya trabajan, estudian, y bueno, en esos tiempitos que se puede ya, hemos acordado reuniones, acá tenemos como para junio todavía, porque queremos prepararnos, queremos que ellas también se preparen, queremos que todas, indistintamente si son delegadas o observadoras, podamos tener también una misma mirada y estar alineadas, ¿no? Aquí me acompaña mi subcomisionada nacional, Rosario Ticona, desde Tacna, así que estamos súper contentas de verdad de poder tener esa experiencia como país, como organización miembro. Estamos muy emocionadas de que hayan chicas jóvenes, y bueno, invito que en todos los países, también en todas las organizaciones miembros, las involucren, porque definitivamente, como estaban comentando ahora, no hay una organización si es que no hay mujeres jóvenes que se comiencen a involucrar, ¿no? Así que muchas gracias por este espacio, y ya nos estamos conectando en los que vengan. Gracias.
Qué gusto reencontrarnos también. Y sí, definitivamente el 8 de mayo vamos a encontrarnos de nuevo. Lástima que ya se nos está acabando este espacio, pero queremos escuchar alguna otra organización miembro, tal vez alguna de las que hable inglés, francés, portugués, alguna otra organización miembro que nos quiera compartir cómo se están preparando para la conferencia. Manitas levantadas, no veo manitas levantadas. ¿Hay alguna otra organización miembro que nos quiera compartir? Recordarles también que en el chat nos están compartiendo las respuestas de la última pregunta que nos quedaba pendiente. Si alguna otra organización miembro nos quiere contar cómo está su experiencia, cómo se están preparando, qué consejo les dan principalmente a aquellas que no han participado de una conferencia regional, les agradecemos todos esos tips. Cualquiera de las participantes, porque no tenemos ninguna mano levantada. Okay.
I see no hands, Gabby.
No manos levantadas.
No more hands.
Bien.
So perhaps we can now jump to looking at the question that we asked, and we just give the response from the different candidates. The question that was posed in the chat is, what elements or action do you identify as priorities in the region? So I'm just gonna take us quickly through the responses. So I'm seeing Stephanie, she says, I think that dual key priorities for region for 2022-2025 are to continue to recover and also grow girl or adult membership, including regional volunteers on the national level, following declines promoted by global pandemic, and 2, financial health through fund development and grant prospecting and donor solicitation. Thank you for that, Stephanie. Excellent response. Let's hear from Abigail. Abigail says, I think that integration, member retention, and diversification fundraising methods are important aspects for focus in the region right now. And as a region and a sisterhood, we should encourage joint activities to teach and to learn cultural and traditional practices of sisters in guiding, encouraging guides to connect with others of significant importance, as this could make their experience more exciting and be a method of retaining young members. the pandemic has dampened our physical method of fundraising, so we should think of alternate ways so that in the face of crisis or another pandemic like COVID, we can continue to raise funds. We go through to see if I'm seeing Suzanne's response.
Yes.
Okay, from Suzanne, a vibrant membership is the basis for a flourishing MO. All issues stem from this: finance, leadership stress and burnout, and succession planning. All flows from this. We can learn best practices from each other. And so we realize and recognize that a common theme coming from all responses is collaboration and learning from each other. And so this morning we want to thank the candidates, Abigail, Stephanie, and Suzanne, for presenting, for speaking so eloquently, and for being so excellent in your answers. You all did fabulous, right, Gabrielle? I'm sure you'll agree with me, and I'm sure the other members who are participants this morning will agree that they had fabulous responses, and there is a bright future for the region and a bright future for WAGS overall. Gabrielle, any comments that you would like to share at this point?